Welcome back to NES Revisited. We just wrapped up the 17 launch titles, but now we're going to be headed to June 1986. 8 additional games were released by Nintendo in that month. We're going to check out 4 of them in this video, so let's check it out. First up in the series, Donkey Kong. Listen to that classic intro music. Should be familiar if you played the Donkey Kong Country series. This classic arcade game has been ported to just about everything possible in the 80s. Naturally, Nintendo would port this to their new home console. In typical black box fashion, you get Game A for beginner and B for expert. You pass the controller back and forth in player 2 mode. Another game that needs very little introduction or explanation. The objective is simple. Make your way up to the top of each stage and rescue Pauline. Yep, no Princess Peach here. Stage 1 is pretty much identical to the arcade version. You don't get the nice stage transitions, but the gameplay is really solid. The oil barrel sends a fireball behind you and Donkey Kong throws barrels down the stage. You can collect Pauline's purses and umbrellas for extra points and grab the hammer to destroy any objects near you. Keep in mind you can't jump or use the ladder, so make sure you are safe when the timer runs out. When you get to the top, you would normally see Donkey Kong snag Pauline and go to the next stage, but on the NES, it just goes to the next stage. If you ever saw the arcade version, this could be confusing. Did you save her or not? Stage 2 from the arcade version is skipped for some reason. The NES version only has 3 stages, so I'm not sure if it was a space issue. Here you get more platforming and ladders to climb. Watch out for the fireballs and the spring Donkey Kong is chucking around. It's not a hard stage if you manage to jump from the second moving platform to the top level. The hardest part is once you get to the top, you have to wait for the right moment to run past the bouncing spring in order not to hit the next one before reaching the top. It gets really close to you. The third and final stage is tricky, but with a little patience, you can walk or jump over all those pins or whatever those things holding up the floor are, and Donkey Kong will eventually come crashing down. This game keeps looping on while the enemies increase in numbers and speed. And that's Donkey Kong. It's a pretty fun arcade game port that is challenging, but not impossible. It's a little disappointing that Stage 2 was left out, otherwise it was pretty faithful to the arcade version. Even though Donkey Kong had been ported so many times prior, this version is really solid and I can't imagine any Donkey Kong fan in 1986 passing on this one. It's fun today as well, not too hard to find, and of course, thanks to Nintendo's Virtual Console and Switch Online, you can get pretty much any version of Donkey Kong, including the arcade version. Check this one out if you haven't already. Alright, let's check out Donkey Kong Jr. Can't say that intro rings a bell at all. Anyway, you get your typical options like before, so let's start it up and check it out. Just like Donkey Kong, the objective is to get to the top, but this time you're Donkey Kong Jr. trying to save Donkey Kong who's been captured by the evil Jumpman. There's vines you can climb either 1 or 2 at a time. Use 2 vines to climb faster and use 1 vine to climb down fast. Collect fruit and you can use them to drop on enemies to clear vines and chains. Stage 2 is a little tricky. You can attempt to use the spring to jump on the moving platform or go the long route. Once you get past that part, just keep going while dodging the birds and you'll finish this one pretty easily. Now stage 3, this one is a little tricky. Just jump over the stuff like usual and make it to the top. The final floor is straightforward. Push keys up to the top to win. Just like every arcade style game, you loop through the stages which are made a little bit harder than before. Unlike Donkey Kong Jr. includes all 3 stages from the arcade and they pretty much look and play the same. This is another game worth picking up at launch. It's faithful to the arcade and still fun to play. I prefer this version over the original, but both are solid games. Alright, time for the black sheep of the series, Donkey Kong 3. Yet another arcade port, this game scraps Mario in favor of Stanley. Use bug spray to move Donkey Kong to the top and avoid bees, which named Beesby and Buzzby, as well as Creepy the Snake. Make sure the bugs don't steal your flowers and don't let Donkey Kong drop all the way or he'll fall, causing you to die. Also, if you hit the snakes, they'll get stunned, potentially blocking the spray. And watch out for that coconut thing too. Well, there's only 3 stages in this version. There's not much going on this game, and it feels more like a Space Invaders clone than anything. It also has a Defender vibe when the bees try to run away with your plants. The variety is extremely limited, but I'll be honest, it's pretty fun to play. It wasn't as popular as the previous games, and some would say it flopped, but give this one a try. It's surprisingly addicting. 2-player mode isn't co-op, which would have been fun, but probably would make it too easy. I'd have to say that any fan of Donkey Kong would love this in their collection back in '86, even if it doesn't follow the traditional platforming style. It's fun to play today too, and it's just like the rest, it's easy to find through Nintendo's virtual services. Last up, it's Donkey Kong Jr. Math. So here's our first learning game that bridges math equations with Donkey Kong Jr. gameplay. You get 3 modes. Calculate A is the easiest math. The object of the game is to create equations that match the numbers shown above Donkey Kong. This is a 2-player competitive mode, so the first one to get the answer wins. Calculate B has a much higher number, but it does start you with 50. It also has negative values too, so this can be pretty challenging if you're competing against someone. The only mode that is for 1 player is the last option, Exercise. This is actually a neat concept. You climb the chain and pick an equation to practice. The controls are really funky if you don't look them up. The idea is that the bird is hovering in the ones column. Go to that chain and he'll move to the next column. But now as you go up or down, you're selecting the number from the left side of the screen that you think the answer is. Move left and the bird will continue to the next area of the equation until it's all done. Once finished, just move off the current chain and you'll drop to the bottom. If you're wrong, it will move the bird to the spot you messed up and let you try again. If you can't solve the problem, you can just move the question block to the top and it will auto-fill it out for you. Well, that's Donkey Kong Jr. Math. Nothing really special with this one. It doesn't teach you math, only lets you practice what you already know. They tried to make math fun, but it's just not that great. I doubt kids were rushing to get this when there were so many other good games to get instead. I bet some poor kid asked for Donkey Kong Jr. only to get this. I like the exercise mode, but it's a little cumbersome. Can't really recommend this game to anyone as a learning tool. Good try though, Nintendo. Alright, well that's going to do it for the 4 Donkey Kong games. I think personally my favorite is probably Junior. Which one of these is your favorite? Do you have a favorite? Also, do you have Donkey Kong Jr. Math? If you do, that game's worth over $100, so make sure you hold on to it. Anyway, in the next episode, we're going to be looking at 4 more games released by Nintendo from their arcade series. So I hope to see you then. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the new episodes when they're coming out. Thanks for watching.